What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Outpour. So on this show, we are talking everything LGBTQ pop culture and social justice. Now, you might notice that we have a familiar face sitting here in the room.
Yes.
Let's give a special welcome to Big Daddy Rob, who's usually out on the streets doing our special correspondence, running the streets.
Yes, I am here today, and it feels so good to finally be on set for just this one episode.
So many Black and Latino folks know that the ballroom house scene has been around for decades. And it's now starting to get so much more recognition across the wider community. Before showing up today, Big Daddy Rob did what he did best and took to the streets to talk with some folks about the ballroom scene. Let's take a look.
When you're next to me.
What's up, everybody? Today I'm sitting with my good friends, the legendary
Cookie Chanel.
and the legendary.
Not legend.
Ooh, Choppers would have been here by now.
Almost.
Cash Balenciaga.
All right, so let's get into these guys' story, okay? We're gonna start with the legendary, not legendary over here, the legendary Cookie Chanel. I want you to tell me how you got started in ballroom and how you came to be legend.
One of my best friends was in the house. He actually took me to a ball, and
Who was your best friend?
you.
I started this whole thing
My
right
best
here.
friend Rob was a prodigy at the time, and my first category was runway. It actually was a performance. And so I started, playing around with runway. I got chopped a few times, for runway. Now I eventually got my 10s, but I moved on to a performance category. And from there, I've been walking performance.
So tell me some of the highlights of your ballroom career.
Oh my gosh. When I first started walking, I won actually when I first walked Virgin Performance, I won my first ball without doing a dip. I won performance without dipping, at all.
So, of course, we know what dipping is, but dipping is the element of Vogue.
Yes, it's an element of Vogue.
What are the elements?
There's 5 elements to Vogue Femme. There's floor performance, hand performance, spins and dips are an element, catwalk, and duck walk. Spins and dips are one element. People always get that confused. There are actually 5 elements to Vogue Femme.
So, how did you first learn to Vogue?
In your kitchen.
From me.
Y'all basically in the kitchen. What was my first element I actually mastered was a duck walk. I couldn't do shit else. Nothing else.
I'm trying you can cuss, honey. It's
Okay,
free
but I no, we good. But I could not do anything else but duck walk. I couldn't catwalk. My hands were shot, but I mastered the duck walk, and from there I just went on. I mastered the catwalk, mastered my hands, mastered my spins and dips, and I became a performance.
All right, so Cash, tell me about your career and how you began in ballroom.
So yeah, I started walking in '06. I think the reason why I got involved with ballroom because I would say the first homosexuals that I became friends with, I would say, one being Cookie, my best friend since day one.
Day one.
They were already involved in ballroom. I was getting introduced to ballroom, and so I started socializing with a lot of the prodigies, so that's how I became a prodigy. So I started walking Schoolboy. My first ball was in 2006. I forget the name. I forget who was throwing the ball. I think it was the Hollywood ball or something.
Yeah, Mike Ball.
Mike
yeah.
Ball. And then my first major ball was in NYC at the
Icon Ball, I believe.
at the clubhouse in Chinatown.
Oh yeah.
2007. Icon
The
Ball.
clubhouse. Yeah, back in the. Oh yeah, we're in the clubhouse. Back in the day, used to be the shit.
And so yeah, I was walking Schoolboy Realness, and then I kind of left. I won't say I left ballroom scene because I never left the house, but I did start walking for a few years. I went to school, and then I came back. I switched my category
To?
All American One Way.
Okay, so both of you can answer this question, and you can decide who wants to go first. What does it take to make a legend?
In my eyes, you have to have an impact in ballroom. You have to have done something within ballroom that contributed to it and also elevated it. So that there should be individuals that are walking your particular category and are trying to mimic you or recreate some of your moments. To me, that is what the legend is. Someone that people idolize or people look up to. People look at as someone that they can reach out to, provide them with advice and things like that. To me, legend ain't how long you've been walking the ball, how many times you won. That's not legend.
So for you, legendary status doesn't come with a tenure or amount of years.
Right.
It's about the overall impact you had on the community overall.
Yeah.
So for people like, let's say, Laomi, who hasn't been walking for a long time, but she had a very big impact from the moment she began walking and the way her career progressed over time. So even though she hasn't been walking, heck, she got her status long before 10 years, you still would consider her a legend because of her impact.
Yes, she had a huge impact in ballroom.
Yes. Okay. So let's hear from the legend, Derry. What does it take to make a legend?
I agree with his definition. That's one definition. Also, you have to be a master at your craft. Meaning, especially a legend in a category, because in ballroom, you're legendary for your category. So in order for you to be legendary for your category, master your craft. Yes, contribute to the scene. That's all. If you're having fun in the scene, you always contribute to the scene. Going to balls, participating, believe it or not, that is a contribution to the scene. Some people say, like, there's this stigma that sometimes people get their legendary status early, and I disagree with that sometimes, because sometimes people's impact on the community is bigger than some other people's impact on the community. Like, take Laomi for an example. When you're a game changer, that makes you legend. That makes you legend.
So in terms of the way that the fathers deal with the young boys in the house, does it come off as, or is it an incestual relationship?
I would say from experience, from things that, not from personal experience, but from things that I've noticed and seen, I could say yes. It's not so much, I haven't seen it more so recently, but years ago, and believe it or not so long ago, I would say yes.
So you've heard of or seen, well, you said not so much seen, but you've heard of instances about fathers dating their gay sons or having sex with their gay sons.
Yeah, having sex or, dating. There are house fathers who are in relationships with, children or with kids in their houses. So, or there have been. I don't know recently, but there have been.
And what's your take on that?
All right, so is your question on more so are the house fathers taking advantage of their male counterparts in their house, or like just the whole overall relationship that they create with some of them?
I'm gonna say both, because I think if you're having a sexual relationship with a teenager in your house who's 16 and you're in your 30s or 40s, you're taking advantage of that young man. Because he's impressionable, he's looking to you as an authority or father figure, but you're sticking your dick in his butt.
Right, okay, I get what you, okay.
I will say, from my own experience, from what I've witnessed, there has been a lot of instances where the house fathers may have been taking advantage of what I will call someone who is vulnerable. They're looking for, someone to take them in, someone to put them in the right direction. They're looking at this house father as someone that they looking at is put together. They're running this national house. They have all the answers, and so they use that to their advantage sometimes. And unfortunately, it's not right. And some of these kids get caught up.
When you're next to me.
Rob, what did you think of the experiences of the young people that you spoke to?
The interesting thing is that as he spoke to an interview was that I introduced him to ballroom. And that was not my intention. My intention was to keep him away from ballroom. I just don't think it was something I wanted him to get involved in. And we also spoke to the fact that had he not stayed on a focused path of pursuing a career and not letting ballroom take over his life, I would have killed him. Because I've seen so many people get dragged or drugged through the mud as a result of participating in ballroom and letting their lives go by the wayside. And I too was a participant in ballroom. But by the time I met him, when he came out, I had divulged from the scene completely. So I found it very interesting, their takes on how they perceive ballroom to be, and how it's not just, this thing, this culture is bigger than that, it's more than that. And for some, it could be a family in the sense of belonging, but for others, it could be a path towards the devil, so to speak. So it was really enlightening. We never talked about ballroom. We just showed up to each other's houses and had Vogue nights and got drunk and vogued down to house beats and shit and popped, spinned and dipped on the floor.
What was your first exposure to ballroom?
So my first exposures, of course, were back home in Cincinnati to the ballroom scene, which is a lot different than the ballroom scene on the East Coast and here in Philadelphia specifically. But when you mentioned like the negative associations with ballroom scene was kind of like how I was introduced to it. For me, all of my initial perceptions about the ballroom scene were always negative because it always seemed like the people who were involved were super judgmental and it was never really positive. There was never really anything like uplifting about it that it seemed to be at that time. But then coming here and seeing so many different aspects of ballroom scene and kiki scene and the involvement with the community and all of the education and the integration across ages and generations and spectrums, so really has it's a different part of ballroom scene. It's more positive, it's more uplifting, and I've even said recently that I feel like had I been like born here or brought up here, I feel like I probably would have participated in the ballroom scene just because you can be, you know, very influential, but also learn and grow and be part of a community and a family.
And a family.
In a sense. It's definitely a family, and I've been exposed to that and saw that here.
You know, I walked to my first ball in 1996.
Oh, child,
I know. I know. In 1996, I worked my first ball, the awards ball in Philadelphia, and it was a Broadmaster, YMCA. I mean, it was gritty, nasty, just old school. Loved it.
I didn't even know you were in the ballroom scene.
Oh, yes.
Legend.
This is one-way diva, honey.
Legend.
That's about to be a story.
Yes, but that's a whole nother story.
We love a dip. We love
Yeah.
a spin. I want to know what makes the ballroom scene so addictive.
So, you want to go? You go first.
Yeah, I know what makes it addictive. So it's a combination really of two things, and this is just from my observation. It's a combination of being celebrated what you have been told from a little boy or a little trans girl or boy, what you cannot do. And you are in an atmosphere where it's celebrated. They want you to be more of it. Yeah. They want you to be more feminine. They want you to be more of a dancer. They want you to be more masculine. They want you to like be over the top with it. So now you're being actually celebrated for the first 16 years of your life.
You were told you could not be.
You couldn't be it. So it's like, there's a place where they celebrating this.
Yeah.
And it was the one place where we could be a celebrity, where we could achieve fame, because we at that time
Within our own community.
Yeah, within our own community. But when you think about the inception of ballroom and how it began, there was no way a gay man or gay woman or a trans woman could be famous. And that was the one place where you could be a superstar. So that addiction came from that high of being accepted and loved and appreciated and glamorized. Like when you look at people like Sanaya Ebony, the mother, the overall legendary, iconic mother of the House of Ebony, I remember she was the first, in ballroom we call them femme queens. I fell in love with Sanaya. I would have dated Sanaya when I was a teenage boy because I was just in love with that idea of this woman that she was. I was in love with the idea of what she presented and how she was celebrated and glamorized. She was ballroom royalty. And now we have people like Leomi, who's not just ballroom royalty, but she's international royalty for trans women. She represents, before there was a Laverne Cox, there was Leomi Maldonado, the Wonder Woman. You know, she was the first representation that we actually had of a trans woman on TV. And they loved her for being exactly who she was. She's had endorsements. She's traveled the world. She's taught classes. She's in documentaries. There are stories built around women like Leomi.
Yeah.
And we have her to thank for that, honestly.
Because of social media, and we are now understanding where, you know, mainstream culture is getting some of their flair from. So now we know where the Real Housewives of Atlanta
Get their flair and
yeah,
their shade in your
yeah,
lingo.
I like you know, as a professor or a teacher, you know, I hear young women now saying the word shade. Well, bitch, I've been saying shade since I was 15 years old. Like that's not new.
No shade.
You know, really, I mean, the word shade has been out since the Harlem Renaissance. But people don't understand that because it was black and gay. Yeah, no, shade ain't new.
Yes.
T
Ain't new.
T ain't new. T
Ain't new.
Them drag queens.
Some people been sipping for a long time.
Okay, thank
People
you.
being red.
And the interesting thing is that, you know, it is now being celebrated by mainstream culture. But my fear with that, and you know, we talked about this in the interview, is that my fear is that one day ballroom will get whitewashed in the sense of you won't even know that young black men and trans women were even participants of it, and it's ours.
You know, and I think the whitewashing has already begun when it comes to ballroom. Because once, thank you, we have Pose now. When we had Paris is Burning, they're still paid no mind. I mean, Madonna threw a little bit of splash on it, she threw a little bit of bleach on it, but it didn't have enough effect. That color came right back. You know, just made it, they was like, oh, you know, here are the gays doing a little thing in Madonna's video, and that was it. But then you had shows like, and I said this in the interview, Noah's Ark, where they touched on ballroom, but then they fantasized it and made it something that it was not. Don't take me wrong when I say this, but there are already predominantly white ballroom communities now. And there are more white walkers in houses. You know, I've seen more white females voguing at balls now, because they take these classes overseas, taught by the pioneers and the up-and-coming legends of Vogue film.
Is it the same? Like, have you found
So it is. They don't see the value in black bodies like that, and that's where. So if you have white girls, like I remember the two Asian girls who were voguing, and they literally said that they were the two best voguers in the world. Now I know that they're not the two best voguers in the world. People who are in the ballroom scene, but I don't think about what's in this city or more conscious folks. I'm thinking about, like, if I'm a little young gay boy in Wisconsin and had never seen a ball, I would think, oh, these are really the two voguers, you know, and narratives like that, to me, become very dangerous, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those are the narratives that become dangerous about ballroom. But like I was saying before, like I do feel like the young men that were in that interview, there is a balance. Now, I will always say that I could not keep that balance. I struggled with, because I did not have a strong knit blood family. So my house family was my family. Yeah. So when I see Pose, I have all kinds of countertransference issues.
It's chosen family.
Yes, it is chosen family.
So we've talked about support. We've talked about fame. We've talked about freedom to be yourself and authenticity.
Yeah.
What else can people learn or get from the house and ballroom scene?
I would say educated, kind of.
Absolutely.
And the only reason I think of education is because I work in sexual health. So as a social worker who works in sexual health, what I see a lot of times is that field, those companies want to collaborate with the Kiki scene, and they kind of like want to support them, but they kind of usually tie it to like some form of like education or prep or sexual health empowerment type of wellness things.
What I got from ballroom during my short 2 to 3 years, I gained a lot of discipline. I mean, I've always been in theater and performing arts, so I had a lot of discipline from that, but I learned how to really just be a better person and to not represent myself in a negative light. And I learned that from my house father. He really, you know, he pushed the agenda of education. And if you can get your ass up and go to a ball in Baltimore at 16, you can take your ass to school when we get back to Philly. So he dropped, like literally, we would go to balls, and Antar can attest to this, we would go together. So we would go to Baltimore to these balls, and I would be knocked the fuck out on the way back for a 3 or 4 hour drive. And guess what? When he woke my ass up, I was in front of my school at 8 o'clock. He made sure that I finished high school. And I think that's sometimes what a lot of families in ballroom lack, is that mentorship, that discipline, that education. You have to, if you're going to take these young kids under your wing and call them your sons or your daughters, you should treat them as such. And I think that's why when I saw some of the things going on growing up in ballroom, I didn't want people, young men and young women, to become a part of it, because I saw if they did not have the right mentorship or the right house mother, house father, they would be lost to the wind.
Can you say more about that? Because there are a lot of people who have kids or family members or mentees who are younger and interested in the ballroom scene, that they don't want them to be a part of it. You yourself mentioned that you had friends that you said, I didn't want them to have anything to do with ballroom. What are the dark sides?
This is a good thing. So I do think, along with ballroom has changed and evolved. So there was a time when I'm listening to Cash and Cookie and they're talking about their experiences in the ballroom. One of the things I've realized is that because people are more accepting of LGBT folks in general than they were 20 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, houses have defined differently than what So I may not need a house for necessarily the support of mom, dad.
I might just need for a name.
Yeah, I just maybe need the name to get my name out there and compete. So now it's different, and I can see the difference because there's a lack of respect for like legends and icons. There's definitely a big difference. I have seen things taking place at balls that I knew would never take place at balls 20 years ago because one, we still all kind of partied together and fraternized and socialized together. But I don't need you as much as you think I need. I don't need you for a place to stay. So yeah, I'm gonna curse you out. You ain't my real dad. You ain't my real mom. Where I thought of my gay mother, when you talk about Tiny Cartier, like that was my mother. Like she would be like, faggot, get your ass over here. Like, and I would be like, all right. Like, this is weird. She asked me to take her somewhere the other day. She's like, sex change, where are you at? And I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm coming. Like, that is your, but that is not, yeah. And she was like, and I was like, okay, like, but now, I can see like kids are having coming out parties. Yeah. So like, it's like they're being celebrated at home. So I don't necessarily need ballroom to celebrate me. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that's changed. The dynamic is changing because, families are becoming more accepting. And as families become more accepting, the role in which the balls playing LGBT is the nucleus is changing.
And so is there no more risk? Are there no more concerns?
It's always risk.
I'm a little disconnected from ballroom now. I don't know the culture of it anymore. I don't even know the new legends or the new icons because I'm far removed from it. But I'm pretty sure the risk still exists. Risk will always exist in any situation, whether you're a dancer, a theater actor, or a ballroom participant.
Can you say more about what those risks are?
Well, back when I was a ballroom diva, no, I never was a ballroom diva. I was a legend slayer. But the risks were a little bit, like I had people approach me and offer me drugs at 16. And I smoked cigarettes at 16. So I'm smoking a cigarette and I won't say her name, but this trans woman walked up and said, hey baby, you want a puff of this? And it was a cigarette with a rock of cocaine in it. So they expose young, vulnerable men and women. If you're vulnerable or you don't have that support system at home or in your ballroom family, you'll get exposed to drugs or sex work or have young, older men taking advantage of you and sleeping with you and for nothing. And a lot of young guys that I grew up with were catching HIV because they had no one to guide them because they were looking for acceptance and love because they were damaged as individuals. That they turned to these men and women who seemed like okay adults or somebody who's going to guide them who actually took advantage of their bodies and their minds and broke their souls. And I had 3 or 4 friends die from HIV before I even hit 25. Because they were out here messing with these guys who were supposed to be father figures or role models, who were leaders of communities and houses and things. So those risks, I'm pretty sure, still do exist, but I don't know to what extent or what level. So that's what, that's why I strayed my friends away from it. If you didn't have the right support system, or you didn't link yourself with the right house family, you were lost. And I've seen it happen to so many young, attractive, unattractive, great bodies, fat, slim. I've seen so many people thrown to the wayside just because of somebody else's greed and lust.
So for anyone who's not in the ballroom scene but wants to give their support, how do we bring people in and show them how great ballroom is without inviting them to take it over?
So I wonder, like, I know they talk about like a kiki scene, the ballroom scene. Like, what's the difference between the two?
Well, okay, so I'm going to try to describe this.
Because I used to walk kiki balls.
Well, I never walked a kiki ball. A kiki to me is a kiki.
Kiki for the young one? Okay.
But that's a whole nother thing. I'm old school. I come from the grit and the grind of ballroom. I think you need to be chopped 3 or 4 times to get your life. To get your life, because it builds resiliency. It builds character and growth. It builds character and growth. You need to get chopped. It builds and it makes you humble.
A good high.
Yes. So when I hear about the kiki scene, I understand why kids go to the kiki scene because it's like the B leagues, when you could. But see, I made it in the major. You mean I made it in the major? Yeah, I made it in the majors. See, I had to make it in the majors because there was no other choice. Now I feel like you got a church, you can get your life in the kiki scene and be, it's like half-ass. That's my opinion.
So are you saying that they're like levels then? That
it's levels to this shit.
Okay, mother. If y'all don't know, Antar. And I used to watch and emulate the film queens when I Vogue. So I would like, you know, be out here giving hips and body and doing all this shit and shaking titties I didn't have and swinging hair. So it was a way where people who did not have a name or could not develop a name because of what their houses said could be somebody else. And then you create a kiki houses.
There are so many ways to get your life. That is all the time that we have for today, but we hope that you keep coming back to get some more of this great content. But as always, we would like to thank you for the outpour of love and support. See you next week.
Bye.